A billion-dollar wedding turned into a courtroom of shame. On the day of her brother's engagement, a pregnant widow was tied, kicked, and caged until the truth exploded. Don't miss this powerful story. The end will leave you speechless. The sun was sinking low over Lagos when a sleek private jet touched down on the runway. From it stepped Jessica Okoro, her hand resting protectively on her rounded belly. At only 5 months pregnant, she already carried the glow and the burden of motherhood. But behind her calm face was a heart still raw with grief. Her husband had died just 3 months earlier, leaving her to face the world alone. Jessica had left the country years ago after her wedding, building a new life abroad. But the sudden loss of her husband tore that life apart. Now, with her unborn child as her only companion, she had returned to the country she once called home. Waiting at the end of the tarmac was her younger brother, Benjamin Okoro, the heir and rising star of the family business. His eyes widened with joy the moment he saw her. He hurried forward, taking her hand as if afraid she might slip away again. "Jessica," he said warmly, almost breathless. His eyes dropped to her stomach, then back to her face. "You came back, and look at you. You're not alone anymore." Jessica forced a small smile, her throat tight. "Ben, it's been 3 years." Benjamin nodded quickly. "I know. And now you are back. You and this baby. You are all I have left since Mom and Dad died. From now on, I will take care of both of you. Do you hear me?" he said as he touched her belly. His words broke the wall Jessica had tried to build around her heart. Tears filled her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I came back for you," she whispered. "I didn't want to miss your engagement banquet." Benjamin's face softened. "Then stand by me, Jessica. Let everyone see that the Okoro family is still strong. No one will ever harm you again." Jessica nodded, resting her hand once more on her belly. She wanted to believe him. But deep in her chest, a faint unease lingered, because she knew the world could be cruel, and happiness was never guaranteed. And so, with her return, the stage was set for a banquet that would change everything. While Jessica and her brother Benjamin walked out of the airport hand in hand, Caroline Adeyemi, the proud and sharp-tongued mother of Benjamin's fiancée, Amanda, was also at the airport. Caroline was a woman who valued appearances above all things. She had raised Amanda with strict discipline and always believed no stain of shame should ever touch her family name. So when her eyes landed on Benjamin and Jessica, she froze. Benjamin's hand was resting gently on Jessica's rounded belly. The way he bent toward her, the way he smiled with so much care, it looked to Caroline like the kind of intimacy no man should ever show to a woman who wasn't his wife. Her heart hardened. So this is what he's hiding, she thought bitterly. A mistress? And pregnant too? What a disgrace. She quickly pulled out her phone and dialed her daughter. On the other side of the city, Amanda Adeyemi, Benjamin's bride-to-be, was at a restaurant, celebrating a small pre-engagement gathering with her stepbrother Ryan and 2 of her bridesmaids. Laughter filled the table until her phone rang. "Hello, Mom," Amanda answered, her smile fading at the sharp tone of her mother's voice. Caroline's words came fast and cutting. "Your Benjamin is shameless. I just saw him at the airport with a woman, a pregnant woman. He was touching her stomach with so much affection and care. Amanda, open your eyes." Amanda's heart stopped for a moment. She tightened her grip on the phone. "No, Mom, that can't be true. Benjamin is not like that. He cannot cheat on me." Caroline hissed through the line. "Believe me or not, but I know what I saw." Amanda ended the call slowly, her chest tight, her mind racing. Her bridesmaids leaned in, curious. Ryan, sitting casually with his drink, leaned forward, his lips curling into a sly smile. "Sister, don't be too sure. Men always hide things. Maybe Mom is right." Amanda shook her head quickly. "No, Ryan. Benjamin loves me. He would never—" But Ryan's words pressed into her mind like poison. "Then let us prove it," he said smoothly. "Let us expose this woman who thinks she can trap Benjamin. I'll help you, Amanda. We'll teach her a lesson she will never forget." Amanda's hands trembled. Her heart wanted to trust Benjamin, but the seed of doubt had been planted. She forced a smile at her stepbrother and nodded slowly. "Fine," she whispered. "Let's find out who she is." Across town, The black convoy of cars rolled smoothly into the wide gates of the Okoro mansion. Jessica leaned back in her seat, her hand still resting protectively on her pregnant belly. For the first time since she had stepped off the private jet, she felt the warmth of being home again. Her brother Benjamin squeezed her hand gently. "Jessica, make yourself comfortable. I have an urgent meeting with investors. It won't take long. I'll be back in time for the engagement. Just rest. You need it." Jessica smiled faintly. "Go, Ben. I'll be fine." Moments later, Benjamin's car sped away, leaving Jessica in the quiet mansion. She settled into the living room sofa, sighing as she let her tired body sink into the cushions. For the first time in weeks, she felt safe. But that peace did not last long. The sound of hurried footsteps and sharp voices cut through the silence. The door burst open, and in stormed Amanda, flanked by her two bridesmaids and her stepbrother Ryan. Amanda's eyes blazed with fury as she pointed at Jessica. "So this is her, the shameless woman hiding in Benjamin's house?" Jessica sat up in shock, confused. "Excuse me?" Amanda marched closer, her voice rising. "How dare you? How dare you sit here so casually on my engagement day, carrying my fiancé's baby and pretending to belong in this mansion?" Jessica's hands flew protectively to her belly. "You've made a mistake." But Amanda cut her off, her words sharp as knives. "Mistake? You're bold enough to flaunt your pregnancy? Bold enough to rest on his sofa? Bold enough to make yourself at home? On the very day I am supposed to become his wife?" The bridesmaids nodded and whispered, smirking behind Amanda. Ryan folded his arms, his eyes gleaming with satisfaction as he watched the fire he had sparked burn hotter. Jessica, trembling, rose slowly to her feet. She could feel her heart racing. "You don't understand." But Amanda stepped closer, her face twisted with rage. "No, you don't understand. I will not let you ruin my life. Today you will learn who I am." And with those words, the battle lines were drawn. The living room of the Okoro mansion, once filled with silence, now echoed with chaos. Amanda's eyes burned with anger as she circled Jessica. Ryan stood close, smirking, while the two bridesmaids waited eagerly for her command. "Grab her," Amanda snapped. Before Jessica could move, strong hands seized her arms. Ryan pushed her roughly back into the chair. The bridesmaids pulled her wrists behind her, tying them tight with long strips of decor ribbon from the banquet preparations. Jessica gasped, struggling. "What are you doing? Stop this madness!" Amanda leaned close, her face twisted with rage. "You think you're clever? You think you can use a baby to trap Benjamin? That child," she sneered, jabbing her finger at Jessica's swollen belly, "will not see the light of day." Jessica's heart pounded. Tears burned her eyes as she begged, "Please don't. I am his sister. I am Benjamin's sister." Her words only made them laugh. Ryan shook his head mockingly. "Do you hear her? Now she claims to be his sister. What a bold lie." Amanda folded her arms. "The real Jessica's flight is in an hour. So who exactly are you? An actress? A gold digger?" Jessica shook her head desperately. "Call him. Call Benjamin and he will tell you." "Enough," Amanda barked. "You think I will let you speak to him and trick him further? Tape her mouth." One of the bridesmaids pulled out a roll of clear tape from the decor bag and pressed it roughly across Jessica's lips. Jessica struggled, muffled cries spilling from her mouth. Then, with a sudden burst of cruelty, Dora, one of Amanda's bridesmaids, stepped forward. She raised her hand and slapped Jessica hard across the face. Jessica's head whipped to the side, pain stinging her cheek. Amanda smirked coldly. "Good. Let her know today that she messed with the wrong family. No one humiliates me and gets away with it." Jessica's body trembled. With her hands bound, her mouth taped, and her baby vulnerable inside her, she felt the crushing weight of fear. For the first time, she realized they might actually hurt her child. Jessica struggled in the chair, her wrists burning under the tight ribbon, muffled cries pushing weakly against the tape across her lips. Ryan checked his watch and leaned toward Amanda Adeyemi. "The guests are already at the venue. The event will start at any moment. We can't waste time here." Amanda's face hardened. She turned sharply to her bridesmaids. "Drag her. Let everyone see the kind of shameless woman trying to destroy my marriage." Ryan smirked, grabbing Jessica by the arm. Together with the bridesmaids, they hauled her out of the mansion, ignoring her muffled pleas. The glittering lights of the engagement venue dazzled the air. Music floated, guests mingled, laughter and chatter filled the hall. But all of it froze when the doors burst open. Bound with ribbon, her mouth taped shut, her belly heavy with life, Jessica Okoro was shoved into the center of the hall like a criminal. Gasps filled the room. Phones shot up instantly. Early guests whispered loudly, some already recording. Amanda marched proudly behind her, flanked by Ryan, her mother Caroline, and the bridesmaids. "Look at her!" Caroline spat, her voice sharp. "See how bold she is, walking into another woman's engagement with a swollen belly. Shameless." The crowd jeered, their voices rising like a cruel tide. Sonia, one of Amanda's bridesmaids, raised her voice over the noise. "Ladies and gentlemen, we caught Benjamin's pregnant side chick." Laughter and insults erupted. Some guests clapped mockingly. Jessica shook her head wildly, tears streaming down her cheeks as she tried to speak past the tape. At last one of the guards ripped it away. Her voice cracked as she cried out, "I'm Ben's sister. Please, you are making a mistake. I am his sister." But her words were drowned in laughter. "Liar!" someone shouted. "She looks too cheap to be from the rich and influential Okoro family," another sneered. "She's just here for his money," others mocked. Amanda folded her arms, her lips curled into a smile. "Keep pretending. We'll show you your place." Caroline stepped forward, her face dark with disgust. She pointed at the iron cage the decorators had used earlier as a dramatic prop for the party. "Lock her in there!" she ordered. "Let the world see the kind of mistress who dares to shame my daughter." Ryan didn't hesitate. He pushed Jessica toward the cage, and with the help of the guards, they slammed the door shut. Jessica fell to her knees inside, trembling, her hands still bound, her pregnant belly rising and falling with each painful breath. Around her, jeers, phones, and mocking laughter filled the air. Her voice broke as she repeated, "I am his sister. I am his sister." But no one believed her. The hall buzzed with cruel laughter and jeers, but Amanda was not satisfied. She lifted her hand, silencing the noise. "Take her away," she commanded. "Lock her up. She does not deserve to stand here among us." Ryan and the bridesmaids dragged Jessica roughly toward a small storage room at the back of the venue. The iron cage was pushed inside, the door clanging shut once again. Amanda followed, her high heels clicking angrily against the floor. Jessica sat slumped inside, tears streaming down her cheeks, her belly rising with each frightened breath. Amanda's eyes suddenly caught a glimmer. She bent forward, her gaze narrowing on the sparkling diamond bracelet on Jessica's wrist. Her face twisted with rage. "So it's true," Amanda hissed. "Benjamin bought this for you? A diamond bracelet worth millions for a mistress?" Jessica shook her head quickly, lifting her trembling hand. No, you're wrong. I bought this myself. Please." But Amanda's fury only grew hotter. With a sudden scream, she lashed out and kicked Jessica violently in the stomach. Jessica cried out in pain, her body folding as she clutched her belly. The sound of her scream echoed through the small room. Blood trickled down her legs, staining the floor. Her voice shook with terror. "My baby. Not my baby." But then something inside Jessica broke. Fear turned into fire. Her tear-stained face lifted, her voice shaking with anger. "Amanda, I will never forgive you for this. You will regret this day." Summoning the last of her strength, Jessica charged forward, slamming against the cage door with all her weight. Amanda stumbled back, startled, then quickly recovered. "Lock her in," she shouted. "Don't let her escape. She is finished." The bridesmaids fumbled with the cage, forcing Jessica back inside as she screamed, her fists pounding weakly on the bars. Just then, Ryan rushed in, his face tense. "Amanda, he's here. Benjamin just arrived." Amanda's fury melted into sudden panic. She adjusted her dress, wiped her sweat, and forced a smile. Good. He must not see her like this. With one last cold glance at Jessica bleeding in the cage, Amanda spun on her heels and hurried out of the small room. Jessica was left behind in the shadows, trembling, bleeding, and clutching her stomach. Her whispers filled the silence. "Please, God, don't let me lose my baby." The hall glittered with light. Music played, dancers moved gracefully, and the planners ensured every detail screamed luxury. Guests clapped and praised, snapping photos and recording videos as the Okoro Adeyemi engagement officially began. But beneath the glamour, a different energy buzzed. Whispers rippled through the hall like fire through dry grass. "They caught his mistress," one woman hissed to her friend. "And she's pregnant too," another sneered. "Such shame for the Okoro family on a day like this." Laughter, mockery, and knowing glances spread among the guests. Phones flashed, rumors typed fast into chat groups. Suddenly, the sound of drums shifted. The master of ceremonies lifted his voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, make way. The groom is here." The crowd rose to their feet, clapping and cheering as Benjamin strode into the hall, tall and confident. He smiled, bowing slightly to the guests. His heart was full. This was the day meant to bring his family pride. He looked around the hall, wondering if Jessica had made it here on her own. He had sent a driver to pick her up early, but was told she had left the mansion already. But even as he walked forward, he noticed the odd stares, the whispers behind folded fans, the quick smirks of men shaking their heads. Confusion clouded his joy. One of Amanda's bridesmaids leaned close to her ear, smirking. "He's here. What will you tell him?" Amanda forced a bright smile, smoothing her gown as Benjamin approached. But before he could reach her, Ryan stepped forward with a sly grin. "Ben, there's something you need to know." Benjamin's smile faded instantly. His eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" Amanda clasped his arm dramatically. "Darling, how could you do this to me? Am I not enough for you? How could you flaunt a mistress? But don't worry, we caught her. That shameless mistress who has been hiding in your mansion pretending to belong." The crowd murmured louder, pressing in to hear. Benjamin stiffened. His voice dropped cold. "What did you say?" Amanda raised her chin proudly. "Your mistress, Ben. She's been exposed, right here in front of everyone, and she will never embarrass us again. I know she seduced you just to rip where she did not sow." Benjamin's heart slammed against his ribs. His voice thundered across the hall. "Where is she? Where is this woman you dare call my mistress?" The crowd hushed, waiting. Amanda blinked at his sudden fury but managed to say, "Don't worry. We've taken care of her." Benjamin's eyes darkened, his fists clenching. "Amanda," he demanded, his voice like steel, "what exactly have you done?" Amanda's smile cracked as Benjamin's voice thundered. Her anger boiled over. She stamped her foot, her voice trembling with rage. "Benjamin! You dare question me in front of all these people? Do you know how much shame you bring to me by protecting that woman? Explain yourself. Who is she to you?" Benjamin frowned deeply, his confusion written across his face. "What are you talking about, Amanda? What woman? What shame?" Caroline stepped forward, her chin high, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Do not play innocent, Benjamin. You cheated on my daughter with a cheap whore. You got her pregnant. But do not worry, we already handled it. We dealt with her for you." Benjamin's eyes widened, his head spinning. What did you just say?" Ryan smirked from the side. "She's locked away where she belongs, in a cage. Your mistress won't trouble us again." Benjamin's heart stopped. His chest tightened. "You, what?" His voice broke into a shout. "You caged my mistress?" Without another word, he sprinted down the hall, his shoes pounding against the floor, pushing past stunned guests. He burst into the back room and froze. There, inside the cold iron cage, sat a woman he knew better than anyone in the world. Her face pale, her hair disheveled, her hands bound with ribbon, her pregnant belly rising and falling in pain, blood staining the hem of her dress. "Jessica!" The name tore from his throat like a cry of thunder. In an instant, Benjamin was on his knees, ripping the cage open with his bare hands, ignoring the sharp edges that cut into his palms. He pulled Jessica out, holding her trembling body against his chest. She clutched her stomach weakly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Ben!" Her voice cracked. "They want to kill my baby." Benjamin's rage exploded. He lifted his head, his eyes burning like fire as he screamed back toward the hall. "Who did this? Who dared lay a hand on my sister?" The crowd outside had fallen into stunned silence. Murmurs rippled through the guests as the truth struck them like lightning. The mistress they had mocked was Benjamin's sister, the only family he had left in the world, the Okoro family heiress. Amanda's face drained of color. Her lips trembled as she stumbled backward, the truth crashing over her. She clutched her chest, her body shaking. Benjamin did not wait. He scooped Jessica into his arms, her head resting weakly against his shoulder. "Stay with me, Jessica. Stay strong." He stormed through the silent hall, his voice thundering. "Move! Get out of my way!" Every eye followed him as he carried his pregnant, bleeding sister out of the banquet. Amanda's knees gave way. The shame, the fear, the weight of what she had done struck her all at once. She fainted, collapsing onto the floor. And so the grand engagement shattered in a single moment. Its laughter drowned by horror, its glamour destroyed by truth. The sirens wailed as Benjamin's convoy raced through the Lagos night, his arms clutching his sister tightly. Jessica's face was pale, her breath shallow, her hands pressed weakly over her belly. "Stay with me, Jess," Benjamin whispered, his voice breaking. "Please, don't leave me. You and your baby are all I have left." Moments later, they burst into the private hospital. Nurses rushed forward with a stretcher. Benjamin laid Jessica down gently, his hands trembling. "Doctor, please," he begged. "Do everything possible to make sure my sister is all right. Don't let anything happen to her." The doctors wheeled Jessica into the emergency ward. Benjamin paced the corridor like a caged lion, his chest heaving. Every second felt like a year. His fists were clenched so tight his nails cut into his skin. At last, the lead doctor stepped out. His expression was grave. "Mr. Okoro," he said carefully, "your sister is stable for now. But the pregnancy, it is endangered. The assault caused complications. If there is more stress, she could lose the baby." Benjamin's jaw tightened, his heart hammered with fury. "Those who touched her, those who humiliated her, they will pay. I swear on my father's name they will pay." He pulled out his phone, his voice cold and sharp as steel. "Pull all the security footage, the mansion, the banquet, every angle, every second. I want to see the faces of everyone who laid a hand on her." The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. "She needs rest. We will keep monitoring. The baby is still at risk, but for now, she is safe." Benjamin closed his eyes, a deep breath leaving his chest. His sister was alive. That was enough to move. He turned sharply, his voice thundering as he barked orders into his phone. "Lock down the venue. No one leaves until I arrive. Not a single soul. Whoever is there will face me when I return." The hospital corridor fell silent as Benjamin strode out, his face carved with rage and determination. The banquet, once a place of glamour, had now become his battlefield. The hall was still alive with chatter and music when the doors suddenly burst open. Benjamin Okoro strode in, his presence like thunderclouds rolling across the sky. The room fell silent at once. Guests turned, their whispers sharp and quick. "He's back. What happened at the hospital? Why does he look so furious?" Benjamin climbed the stage, his fists clenched, his face carved with fury. He glared at Amanda Adeyemi, then swept his gaze over her family and the crowd of guests. His voice boomed deep and commanding. "The woman you attacked tonight, the woman you dragged, tied, slapped, and caged, she is my sister, Jessica Okoro, the only heiress of the Okoro family, and I will make sure anyone who is involved pays dearly for it." Gasps erupted. Phones shot up into the air again, recording every word, every glare, every flicker of his rage. Murmurs filled the silence. "Oh no, we insulted her." Benjamin's voice rose again, shaking the chandeliers. "And as for you, Amanda Adeyemi," his glare burned into her trembling frame, "you will never step into the Okoro family again." Gasps louder than before rippled across the hall. Amanda's lips parted, but no words came out. Her knees wobbled, her face pale. Benjamin turned to the stunned business moguls and political figures seated in the front row. His words sliced the air like a blade. "By midnight tonight, I want the Adeyemi businesses bankrupt. Any man, woman, or company who dares to stand with them, does business with them, or lifts a finger to defend them, stands against the Okoro family." The silence that followed was suffocating. Every business associate in the hall knew what that meant. To be on the Okoro's bad side was the death of a legacy. Caroline Adeyemi fell to her knees, crying out, "Please, Benjamin, she didn't mean it. Forgive us." Ryan pushed forward too, his voice trembling. "Benjamin, my brother, we can explain." But Benjamin's glare cut them both down like fire. He did not flinch. He did not blink. His fury was absolute. Amanda's lips trembled, but no sound came. The words of defense she longed for never came to her tongue. All she could do was stand frozen, drowning in her shame. And so, in front of both families, vendors, dignitaries, and flashing cameras, the engagement collapsed. What was meant to be a union of power and wealth had become a scene of disgrace, betrayal, and public ruin. The hall was silent when his assistant walked up to Benjamin and handed him a small drive. "Sir," he said firmly. "The full footage, from the mansion and the party." Benjamin took it with steady hands, his face carved with ice. He motioned for the technicians to project it on the big screen above the stage. Gasps filled the room as the video played. Jessica's muffled cries, the decor ribbon tying her wrists, the clear tape across her mouth, the cruel laughter of Amanda's bridesmaids, the slap from Dora, the violent shove, and then the kick. Benjamin's chest heaved as the sound of Jessica's scream filled the speakers. His hands shook at his sides, his teeth clenched so tight they hurt. One by one, the faces of those involved flashed across the screen. "Bring them forward," Benjamin ordered coldly. Guards dragged out the bridesmaids, Ryan and Caroline's aides. Jessica's two friends broke first, falling to their knees. "We were following orders. Please forgive us," they cried. Benjamin's glare cut through them like fire. "Orders? You tied my pregnant sister like a criminal. You slapped her. You mocked her, locked her in a cage like an animal. You put your hands on blood that carries my father's name. You will pay for it." He motioned sharply. Guards yanked them up. Some were beaten immediately in front of the crowd, their screams echoing through the once celebratory hall. Others were dragged away to waiting police vans outside. But Benjamin's fury only grew hotter as the video replayed Amanda's high-heeled foot striking his sister's stomach. The sound of Jessica's cry tore through him again. His voice thundered. "Amanda Adeyemi!" Amanda froze, trembling where she stood. Benjamin stepped toward her, his face a storm. "How could you? How could a woman kick another woman, and worse, a pregnant woman? Even if you were my mistress, even if every word in your head were true, how could you sink so low?" Amanda shook her head frantically, her voice cracking. I was misled. I had bad information. I thought she was—" Benjamin roared, cutting her off. "Bad information? That is your excuse? You endangered my unborn nephew. You defamed the Okoro family name. You conspired with your people to humiliate my sister, the one and only Okoro heiress. You will not walk free tonight." He turned sharply to the guards. "Arrest her. Charge her with assault, defamation, endangering a pregnant woman, and conspiracy." Gasps tore through the crowd again as guards stepped forward, seizing Amanda by the arms. She sobbed, struggling, but Benjamin's glare never softened. Caroline stayed icy, her lips pressed in a hard line. She said nothing. Ryan smirked faintly but kept quiet, his eyes glinting with something unreadable. Benjamin's voice shook with rage as he gave the final order. "Drag Amanda and Ryan out of my sight. From tonight they will be in jail. Let them rot there until the law decides their fate." The guards obeyed instantly. Amanda cried out as she was pulled across the floor, begging for mercy, while Ryan followed silently, his smirk never leaving his face. The Okoro heir had spoken, and his word was law. The hall was no longer a wedding. It was a courtroom, and Benjamin Okoro was the judge. "Please, don't do this. Benjamin, please," she wailed, her hair falling loose around her face. Then, in sheer desperation, she blurted out, "I'm pregnant." The entire hall froze. Gasps rippled like thunder through the crowd. Phones shot back into the air, recording every second. Amanda's eyes darted wildly, her tears streaming as she shouted again, "I am carrying Benjamin's child. This is his baby." The hall exploded in murmurs. His child. Could it be true? Will this change things? Benjamin turned slowly, his face carved in stone. His voice was cold enough to chill the room. "You and I," he said evenly, "have never been intimate. Not once." Amanda shook her head violently, clawing at the guard's arms. "It happened, Ben. That night, when you were drunk. You don't remember, but—" Benjamin's eyes blazed. He raised his hand, and silence fell. "Enough," he thundered. The guards held Amanda firmly in place as Benjamin pulled out his phone, his voice cut sharp and merciless. "You do not have proof, but don't worry. I will give you proof." He tapped the screen. The hall grew deathly still. Then, from the speakers, an audio recording crackled to life. It was Amanda's own voice, hushed but clear. "Ryan, you'll help me, won't you? If I say this baby is Ben's, they will have no choice but to keep me in the family. No one will dare throw me out." Gasps erupted. Guests covered their mouths. Phones shook as they recorded every damning word. Amanda's face drained of color. Her knees buckled as she whispered, "No, no, that's not—" Benjamin's voice thundered again, louder than before. "You dared accuse me of fathering your lies. You dared try to trap me with deceit on the very night you humiliated my sister." He pointed at her, his hand trembling with rage. "You disgust me. You are worse than an animal." The guards yanked Amanda upright. She screamed, "It's not true. He's lying. Please believe me." But no one in the hall believed her anymore. The hall was still buzzing with shock when Benjamin lifted his hand again. His voice was calm now, but deadly calm, the kind that made the entire room lean in. "I am not finished," he said coldly. The head of security approached, handing him a tablet. "Sir, the CCTV synced automatically to our backup server. And Dora's phone. She had voice notes stored on the venue Wi-Fi. We pulled them out." Benjamin's eyes narrowed as he pressed play. The speakers crackled once more, and the room grew silent. Amanda's voice filled the air, desperate and plotting. "If I say this baby is Ben's, they can't throw me out. He'll be forced to marry me into the Okoro family. It doesn't matter what the truth is, as long as the world believes it." Gasps, murmurs, heads shook in disbelief. Then came a second voice note, Amanda whispering nervously to Dora. "But what if anyone finds out it's Ryan's? If they know the baby is really his, I'll be ruined. They can't know. They must never know. Although Ryan and I aren't blood-related, but we grew up like siblings. People won't forgive me." The hall erupted. "What? Her own stepbrother? Shame." The uproar shook the walls. Guests shouted, phones flew higher, the air was thick with judgment. Benjamin's face drained of color, horror flashing in his eyes. His voice cracked with fury. "Ryan! Ryan is the father of this child!" Caroline staggered backward, her hand clutching her chest. Her face pale, her voice trembling, she spat at Amanda. "Your late father will be ashamed of you. He raised you with honor, and this is what you bring to our family. Filth!" Ryan went stone-faced. His jaw tightened, his eyes hard, his smirk gone. He said nothing, offering neither denial nor defense. Amanda fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "No, no. It wasn't supposed to come out like this. Please forgive me, please." The truth stood naked in the center of the hall. Amanda Adeyemi, once so proud, had plotted to trap Benjamin with a pregnancy that wasn't his. The real father was Ryan, her so-called brother. The disgrace was complete. The hall was no longer filled with glamour. It was filled with shame, whispers, and disgust. And Amanda knew. It was all over. Benjamin's face hardened as the last recording faded into silence. The hall buzzed with disgust, the guests' whispers sharp as knives. He lifted his hand once, his voice thunderous. "Enough!" The guards moved swiftly. Ryan and Amanda were seized and dragged across the hall. Neither resisted. Amanda sobbed weakly, her mascara running, while Ryan's face remained like stone, his jaw tight, his silence louder than any words. From the crowd came a wave of jeers. "Shameful! Brother and sister, what a disgrace! Rot in jail!" The words followed them out the doors, loud enough for Amanda and Ryan to hear. Phones captured every second, flashes lighting their final walk of humiliation. Benjamin did not look back. His duty was no longer to shame them. It was to protect his sister. He quickly rushed out of the hall and rushed to the hospital. Back at the hospital, the quiet hum of machines replaced the noise of the banquet hall. Benjamin sat at Jessica's bedside, his hands clasped around hers. The doctor's update came with relief. She is stable. The baby survived. But she will need rest. For now, she should use a wheelchair, only as a precaution. Benjamin's eyes closed as he exhaled heavily. He leaned closer to his sister, his voice breaking. "I'm sorry, Jessica. I should have seen it coming. I should have protected you better." Jessica squeezed his hand weakly, her voice soft but firm. "No, Ben. This is not your fault. But promise me something. Make sure every single one of them pays for what they did." Benjamin nodded, his jaw set. I promise. They will never know peace again. Tears welled in Jessica's eyes, but this time they were not from fear. She looked at her brother with love, whispering, "We only have each other now. You, me, and this child." Benjamin placed a hand gently on her belly, his voice steady. "Then we fight for each other. Always." Days later. The hospital doors opened slowly as Jessica was wheeled out, her brother walking beside her. The sun touched her face, warm and hopeful. She was still weak, but alive. Her baby is still safe inside her. For the Okoro family, survival meant more than just business and power. It meant love that refused to die, no matter the storms around it. The convoy rolled slowly into the Okoro mansion. Jessica seated gently in the back, her brother by her side. The gates swung open, but just inside a familiar figure was waiting. Madame Caroline Adeyemi stood tall at the entrance, her wrapper perfectly tied, her face set with false dignity. As Benjamin's car slowed, she stepped forward, raising her hand. The driver stopped. Caroline walked straight to Benjamin's window, forcing a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Benjamin," she said, her voice trembling with practiced humility, "I beg you, let us not destroy what our families have built. Forgive Amanda. Forgive my household. We can salvage this alliance." Benjamin lowered the glass slowly. His eyes were cold as stone. "Salvage?" His voice carried across the courtyard, heavy and sharp. "You call what you and your daughter did something to salvage? You call humiliating my sister, a pregnant widow in front of strangers, something to patch up?" Caroline flinched, but tried to steady her voice. "She was misled. She made a mistake. You cannot—" Benjamin's voice cut her off like a blade. "No, Caroline, she was not misled. She was cruel. And where did she learn that cruelty? From you. You stood by her side, shouting for them to lock my sister in a cage. You spat insults. You raised your hand not to stop her, but to encourage her. You raised a cruel daughter because you are a cruel woman." Caroline's lips trembled, her hands shaking. "Benjamin, please." But his fury only deepened. His voice rose, echoing against the mansion walls. "You thought my sister was my mistress, so you believed you had the right to destroy her? Even if she were, no woman deserves such treatment. And yet you paraded her like an animal. You disgraced my blood. You endangered her unborn child. You are unworthy to ever stand beside this family again." Tears spilled down Caroline's cheeks as she fell to her knees. "Benjamin, I beg you, do not end us like this." Benjamin lifted his hand, and guards stepped forward immediately. His final words rang like thunder. "Take her out, and if she or anyone in her family dares to set foot on these premises again, they will face consequences they will not survive." The guards moved in. Caroline was lifted to her feet, still sobbing, still pleading, but Benjamin did not look at her again. He turned instead toward his sister, who was watching quietly from her wheelchair. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Come, Jessica," he said softly. "This is your home, and no enemy will ever touch you here again." The Okoro gates closed behind them, sealing the Adeyemis' disgrace forever. By the next morning, the entire city buzzed with one story only. The news of the Okoro engagement scandal had spread like wildfire. Clips from the banquet flooded every corner of social media. Amanda kicking a pregnant woman, Jessica crying in the cage, Benjamin's thunderous announcement the Adeyemis' empire had crumbled. Major partners pulled out of contracts, suppliers cancelled shipments. Phones in the Adeyemi office rang endlessly with investors demanding their money back. No one wanted to associate with the Adeyemi name. On the streets, gossip flowed like a river. "Did you hear? The Adeyemis are finished." Imagine calling the Okoro heiress a mistress, and even kicking her. Such arrogance, such wickedness. God has exposed them. Madame Caroline could not step outside without hearing the words. She kept her head low, her heart heavy. The empire she once guarded with pride had been destroyed in a single night. She decided to visit her daughter. At the prison, the heavy metal door clanged open as Madame Caroline stepped into the cold, damp visiting room. On the other side of the glass, Amanda sat in an orange prison uniform, her face pale, her body thinner, but her belly now visible, the pregnancy showing clearly. Caroline's eyes filled with tears the moment she saw her daughter. She picked up the phone with trembling hands. "Amanda," her voice cracked. "Look at what you have done. Look at what you and Ryan have done. You ruined yourself. You ruined me. You ruined the Adeyemi family completely. Amanda pressed her hand against the glass, tears streaming down her face. Mom, I didn't mean for it to end like this. I thought I was protecting us. I thought... Caroline shook her head, her sobs breaking through her words. Protecting us? You destroyed us. That pregnancy, that scandal, has buried everything your father built. He will be turning in his grave. Amanda broke down, covering her face with her hands. I didn't know what else to do. I was desperate. Ryan said, Enough about Ryan. Caroline snapped, her voice rising. That boy destroyed you, and now you carry his shame inside you. You both have cursed this family. Silence hung heavy between them, broken only by Amanda's sobs. Caroline leaned her forehead against the glass, whispering bitterly, We have finished, Amanda. Finished. When Madame Caroline stepped out of the prison gates, the weight of disgrace pressed down on her shoulders like iron. She knew there was nothing left to return to. No business, no status, no empire. The Adeyemi name had become a curse, whispered only in pity and mockery. Meanwhile, Benjamin moved swiftly to protect his sister and their family name. He demanded that every venue the Okoros ever used adopt stricter guest-handling policies. No outsider will ever lay a hand on an Okoro again, he declared. A public statement was released by the family. It condemned the cruelty Jessica suffered, and it honored her as the true heiress of the Okoros. The apology restored her dignity in the eyes of the world. Months later, the halls of the Okoro mansion were filled with music and joy once again, but this time, it was not for an engagement. It was for Thanksgiving. Jessica sat in the center of the room, her face glowing with peace. In her arms, she cradled a healthy newborn, the baby who had survived so much before even entering the world. Relatives, close friends, and business partners gathered around, their smiles warm and genuine. Benjamin stood behind his sister, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. For the first time in months, his heart was light. Later, as the evening grew quiet, Benjamin sat with Jessica on the veranda, watching the baby sleep in her arms. He spoke softly, his voice firm with resolve. Jessica, I have decided. When I marry, it will not be to wealth or beauty alone. It will be to a woman who respects you. No one else is worthy to be part of this family. Jessica turned her head, smiling through tired but grateful eyes. Ben, I don't need respect. Respect can fade with power, respect can be faked. What I want for you is kindness. Marry someone kind. That virtue alone will stand the test of time. Benjamin looked at her, his eyes softening. Kindness, he repeated, as if storing the word deep in his heart. And so, the storm ended with healing. The Adeyemis fell because of their arrogance, their wickedness, and their snap judgments. The Okoros rose again because the truth was revealed, and the family stood united. The lesson echoed through every guest who once mocked, every business partner who once doubted, and every gossip who once whispered, Snap judgments destroy, truth restores, family comes first.